Hi and welcome to the channel. This is day 7 of 81 days to main daily accountability and mentorship strategy. Sorry this video is coming a bit late. So as promised, today what we're going to discuss is essay writing. I'm going to take up one essay of the two I suggested yesterday and discuss that in detail of the dimensions etc. that you could have taken. Since it was a Sunday, you didn't have to study your society and social justice part, you had to work on your essay writing. So we will switch to that directly. I have not done any research etc. on the essay, and what I'm going to do is with you step by step try to generate different directions and show you how the thinking proceeds when you're trying to write an essay and think of different dimensions. So the first essay that we took up was Forest Precedes Civilization and Deserts Follow Them. This was from 2024 section A of the essay paper. So let's get down to it. I have done previously one more essay. You can learn more in detail in that particular essay about the different types of essay, how to incorporate different structure, etc. Today I will be more focusing on this topic that we have taken. So, forest precedes civilization and deserts follow them. The first step is always, do you understand the meaning or can you explain it to yourself in your mother tongue or whatever language you are comfortable with. For me that is Hindi. So when I'm not able to understand an essay or when I want to simplify that meaning of the essay, I always try to convert and explain that to myself in 2 to 3 lines in Hindi. Forest precedes civilization and deserts follow them. So what you have to do is first write down 2 to 3 lines of what it means to you. Okay, so meaning according to me, step 1. So for me, this is the direct topic which has very direct connotation that before humans there were forests and after humans there are deserts. So the direct connection is with the desertification, overconsumption, exploitation, destruction of environment, etc. This is the direct meaning for me. But now comes how you're going to address this essay. Now this is not a philosophical essay where you can explore a lot of different aspects to it. So most probably my approach to it will be direct. Let me explain that first. The first thing you have done is given the meaning. Now think of some of the dimensions that you could have gone with it. I have taken a very literal meaning of forest, human, and destruction of the environment. You could have taken the meaning of forest as wisdom or philosophy or something like that. That for a human civilization to develop, it is required that it first have the wisdom and science to proceed. And if it doesn't, that lack of wisdom and science leads to destruction of the civilization. So you could take it from that example also. Another dimension could have been that this always happens: forest, civilization, desert. Another is no, usually these go together, coexistence is possible. Sometimes this happens, nature can also take its course, and etc. and etc. So I've given you 3 bodies. One is completely philosophical meaning, one is forest, human, desert. Yes, this is the essay explaining it, and then disagreeing with it. Could be one way of doing it. Could be just giving examples of this and agreeing with it and giving solutions. There might be 1 or 2 ways to do it, but this is my basic way of approaching this particular topic. So what I would have preferred in this essay is to go for the meaning of forest, what I mean by it, its importance, how it leads to civilization, how civilization is leading to deserts, maybe not always, but a lot of time, what has been done and what can be done. Now what I've told you is 7 to 8 different things, and that is taking a lot of elements into a topic which is only 10 pages max. So this is becoming too much. What you need to incorporate is the meaning and the importance part, and the relationship part, these first three part has to be done within the first 2 to 3 pages. Since this is not the relevant part, the relevant part of my hypothesis for this is that yes, there have been instances where civilizations have led to deserts, but first of all, the process is reversible, and second of all, it is not always the case. If we proceed properly, this will not happen. So the focus of what I want to say in this essay is that this has happened, but doesn't necessarily have to happen. So that will be the crux part where I will be focusing. Keeping in mind that part, it's very clear that these three have to be dealt with fast, so that I can focus on this part. Because I think I have a lot of data for this part. This part will be more explanation kind of thing. Now, the benefit of this essay is that you can use a lot of your environment knowledge that you already have from prelims. Now, when I say that this part has to be dealt with in the first 2 to 3 pages, that means a lot of the introduction part would cover this. How will it cover this? Let's focus on that part. Now, first part, as I said, was I choose an essay because I already thought of an introduction that will go very well with it. Yesterday, I gave you an example of Chipko movement to show that humans and forest can coexist, both can care for each other equally and thrive. Another example that I can think of is COVID. I would suggest you this one because it's more relevant. What I would have gone with is the pink flamingos, if you remember, in Powai, I think in Mumbai. They returned during COVID. There was a lot of photos and videos of how nature is already reclaiming parts of civilization as humans withdraw. So you can, in that respect, use I thought of the pink flamingos example in Mumbai. You can take any other example to connect how civilization can remove forest completely, but the forest can also creep back in if you allow it to coexist with you. So that was another intro that I thought of. If I don't know if you watched it, if there was not a pink flamingo scene, I would have even gone with, if I don't know if you know the scene, but in Marvel there is a scene where Captain America mentions dolphins are returning to the river as human civilization has decreased. I'm not saying use that, I'm saying if you can think of that, then use that as a made up story during COVID. What else could you have used? You could have used example of any tribal community which has forest gods. In environment law, you also in environment for prelims etc. you also study how those areas of forest which are sacred groups etc. protected. So you can mention that also. You can mention the biosphere reserve project also, as I think it's called UNMAB. Yeah. As introduction. So there was a lot of introduction for this topic that you could have used. I would have preferred the COVID or the Chipko movement. So intro done. Now 3 parts we had to do in brief: meaning, importance and relationship. Meaning, I think more or less we don't have to explain. Forests is self-explanatory, so don't focus on this part. I would suggest that in your introduction make it clear that for you forest means nature, not just trees. Nature in a complete sense, which when you use Chipko or the COVID example, both work. You can narrow it down and mean only trees or area of cover, or use the definition like the forest report has a forest, and use that you know the areas or the jungles where human intervention is limited. You can use that also. I wouldn't. For me, in this whole essay, forest and nature are interchangeable. Okay. Now, the thing that you have to more explain here is the relationship between forest and civilization. Forest is the cradle of civilization. You can also say when the first human emerged from forest and discovered agriculture, civilization truly began. It was the beginning of the end for the harmonious relationship between forests and humans, as humans discovered that forest can be removed also to fully exploit other aspects of it. What I mean that till the time there was no agriculture, human was completely dependent on forest for anything they needed, eating, surviving, foraging, etc. But when you discovered agriculture, what you did was remove forest and instead of that have plant fields, etc. So in the intro part, we have foregone the meaning of forest. What we have to depend on is the importance of forest and its relationship with civilization / humans. Here I would suggest the standard example will be agriculture, and how that deteriorates will be from agriculture to rural settlements to urban settlements to complete destruction. In this, I would suggest, since you have already used introduction for a story, if you can think of a book or a quote which you can use to explain this importance relationship. For example, the book Sapiens would be a very good use here, where you can simply, and a lot of people are familiar with the book. When explaining this, you can mention how in Sapiens, Novel Harari has explained the relationship between forest and human civilizations, how both first grew together and then one became exploiting the other, something like that. So here, the other thing you can use it if you can think of some examples from history. Ashoka, if I remember correctly, in his rock pillar edicts had included taking care of forests, etc. So you can use that even as far back as 2000 years ago, humans recognized the importance of forests and coexisting with them. So you can use that example. I've given you an example of Sapiens. You can think if you can think of any other example or any other quote, you can use that also. For the importance of forest, you can use data points also. For example, the Amazon forests significance can be understood from the fact that they are literally the lungs of the entire earth, less than like 1% of area of earth and providing majority of its oxygen, something like that you can use to show its significance, same for biodiversity, etc. So in the first 3 pages you use half a page for intro because we are going with a long story one. Then you use the other half page to show the meaning, importance of forests and the relationship. For the other half page is the importance of forest. Here you can use a quote, you can use data points, you can report any UN or Indian government report, and this will be only half page. In the next 1 page you will explain the relationship and how the relationship has evolved from forest dwellers to agriculturists to rural settlements to urban settlements and desertification. Here I would suggest use the Sapiens book. If you can't remember it, that doesn't matter, more is explaining the process. Now one thing that you should remember is the fact that when I mention all this, it does not mean that you cram this data or these quotes. What you do is explain your points. If it's, let's say, 5-line para and you only have one data or one example, properly incorporate that and explain. It doesn't matter that you only had one data, but it matters that the data was utilized properly to elucidate your point. So as we said, urban to desert we have already covered, so 4th point we have done. Now you are in 2 to 3 page max. What to do now? We've gone from forest, importance, relationship leading to deserts. Then what you show is examples of relationship leading to deserts. Now in this essay I have not mentioned the usually used approach of pestle, and there is a reason for it. This essay is very specific to forest area. To go with a lot of dynamics or dimensions of it was not possible. However, in the examples that you choose, you can use dimensions. For example, with respect to forests, civilizations and desert, you can use example both good and bad. Short-term growth in the sense of only focusing on GDP and profits has led to exploitation of nature. And the benefit side could be green GDP, could be if I remember correctly, there is a green GDP, there is also a GNP green GDP, there is a GEP also, a gross environment product also. Then there is for the economics is long-term benefits incorporation, in the sense that disasters can cost a lot of money. If you can preempt those disasters, then you're saving that money and infrastructure. For example, some earthquake or some floods, yearly floods in Bihar can cause destruction of this many crores of rupees. If we can preempt that, then money is saved. So these will be examples of economics. Sociology will be the easiest, will be tribals. The other will be how urban exploitation is leading to issues. One more can be in the sense of, I will not take it properly in sociology, but I'm mentioning it here in the sense that lack of greenery has a lot of mental impact on humans, which is leading to worsening of deteriorating of mental conditions. So green spaces are very important for regenerating and human mental health. Technology is always both ways. Coal, industrial revolution, etc. destroyed the planet Earth, leading to its heating up and all that. And now EVs, etc. and all cleaner energy is part of technology. Legal, we can take examples of legal and political. Political here will be less. Maybe we can use international bodies, UN acts. I think legal and political will go together here. So what you can do is you can come up with the examples on the basis of these dimensions, rather than using these dimensions to structure your essay. No, use those as examples that you can come up with and then incorporate them. Now, does this always lead to desert? Give some examples. The easiest one is the Indus Valley. It is widely hypothesized that change in weather patterns and agriculture issues, etc., led to desertification of the Indus Valley civilization and its eventual end. Some people think that rather than it ending, it shifted from the Indus, I think Yamuna Doab, to the Yamuna Ganga Doab. So you can mention that as an example. Sahara Desert and Thar Desert. Thar Desert for India would be a good example of how, especially the illegal mining in the Aravallis is leading to the increase in area of Thar Desert, area under impact of Thar Desert. It has come up to Gurgaon and Delhi. So you can use that example. That is a current example. You can use, if you know that there was a huge issue of Dust Bowl in America, like 60-70 years back. So you can use that. Sahara Desert is famously supposed to have not been nature made but man made. So you can use that. You can use UNCCD report of increasing desertification due to human action. So you can give examples of how this relationship can lead to desertification, but not always. Now here you will give examples of nature leading to such things. So maybe give 1 to 2 examples. Sahara is obviously an example. Here you can use a geography knowledge and mention the conjunction of currents, cold currents and wind pattern has led to a creation where Sahara is mostly a desert, something like that. Nature has then there is sometimes desertification of a place can also be because of some disaster, etc., or just the way the soil is saline. For example, Kutch is not man-made. The area is just too saline for there to be much forestation. So yes, this relationship can lead to desertification, but not always. Then what you can mention is third part is but not always is first is nature, second is in nature you have 2 points. Second will be even if it does, this process is not irreversible, you can reverse. Here you can use a lot of examples and schemes that you have learned. You can use government acts, international actions, UNCCD reports, any example of for example red, this red and red plus, this is initiative directly related to reversing desertification, so you can use that an example there. So those as current examples of how reversible, how policies are there and acts are being done which will allow us to reverse the process. So meaning, importance, relationship can lead to desertification but not always, because nature and actions reversible. Mention those examples. So this happens, some of the solutions are included. Third will be that there are examples of human and nature coexisting. This includes both what has been happening with the Adivasis, etc., and programs like Biosphere and even parts of Tiger Reserve, etc., which allow the villagers, etc., to live in conjunction with the forests. Now to the future part, or what is and is being done or can be done. Here you can take the example of, if you know, there is a green wall being created in Sahara desert. This is both to separate the rest of Africa from impacts of Sahara and to greenify the place. Then there is the Miyawaki method. This has been a lot asked in prelims before, which is urban forests. You can use that. What you can also use is, I don't know, there is a concept in environment that we study of where downstream in rivers, the cities and people living downstream should pay the people living upstream, so that even though they are not developing, they get paid for not destroying the river for people living downstream. Then same example has been given that Brazil and Amazon countries should get compensation from the whole world to not destroy the desert while having some benefits of development that others are already enjoying. So you can use that as a possible solution and how the world has to come together. Now, while seeing all this, I think one thing I've missed is the importance part, because it is crucial that you are able to make it clear to your reader why forests are important and why desertification is bad. So you can mention in that, I think you must have learned a lot of facts for that. Oxygen I already mentioned. Then there is always global warming, and you can use UN reports on how a 2-degree increase in temperature will have a lot of negative impacts, not only on the environment but also economic, etc., social impacts, etc. You can use the lack of forest and increase in desertification to soil erosion and loss of biodiversity. Eventual consequences of this is also ocean acidification and also increase in ocean level. That will also destroy a lot of cities. So you need to be able to understand why forests are important and why their lack will lead to a disaster for humans. So I think this part I failed to mention before, and that's why I'm telling it again. So I've given example of more of future things that can be done. Whatever you can think of, you can also mention that. You can mention the SDGs. You can mention the concept of circular economy, that if we have to survive and coexist with the environment, we have to adopt an economy which incorporates them into our calculations, and circular economy can become an important part of it. There is government initiative like Life. I think it was introduced 2 or 3 years ago. You can use that. You can use the forest survey survey that is released, I think, every 2 years. So that will definitely have data of how much there has been an increase or decrease in forest. You can use that data because you must have remembered that for your prelims. You can use one of the displacement. So these are the things I'm just spitballing here. What you need to be able to do is whatever examples I have given or that you have thought of, just write them on a piece of paper, and then when you're writing your structure, incorporate them. Future uses, I have given the Amazon, the upstream downstream thing. There are a lot of funds, you can always mention them. There is biodiversity, global biodiversity framework. I think the ACHI targets, and they had, I think, 30 something mangrove target also, so you can use that. Mangrove alliance or something like that, you can use that. If you know, lack of mangrove can lead to increase in damage during cyclones and floods. There's a lot of data points for that, so you can use that as importance of forest and lack of them. So yeah, you have a lot of examples to use. So as I said, rather than using the examples and the pestle method to structure the essay, use it to support your arguments. As I said, in this will be your arguments. We have done with synthesis also, how in the future we can live together. Here you can always give the example of Chipko if you have not used an introduction. You can also give the example of Bishnoi community. Anything you can think of. One of the very popular person, don't remember their name, for Great Indian Bustard, he recently died. If you remember his name, you could have used that. So things like that, these you incorporate. So when you have spitballed and written all of them in a piece of paper, you start structuring. This will be how you structure. In the conclusion, you can use Mahatma Gandhi's most famous quote, everybody's needs, other than them there is the sustainable development quote, that we inherit the earth, not we don't inherit, we borrow it from our children. So you can use some of those quotes. One example of book I have given, you can use Ramchandra Guha is a famous historian and environmentalist in India. There is Madhav Gadgil. You read Gadgil report with respect to the Western Ghats. You can use that, how Western Ghats destruction will, if you remember some of the data points, you can use the Gadgil report to show that how increasing cutting of forest in Western Ghat can lead to disaster. You can use the Kerala floods as examples. So there is a lot of examples that you can use in this, and that's why I like this topic. There is one more book at this I can recommend. These were some of the quotes and books that I could think of, and that's about it. This was just to give you an example that after giving yourself 2 to 3 lines of what you mean by the essay, the first thing you need to do is think of anything, write down on a piece of paper in the rough that you have given in the paper, everything that you can think of, then divide it into dimensions and then start writing. This particular essay was not an example of pestle. This was an example of basically what I did was explained the topic, gave examples to substantiate the topic, then gave examples to show that the topic is not 100% correct, and then I synthesized both and told you how the future can look on basis of current actions and what potential action we can take. So this is also another way to write an essay. I hope the way I generated dimensions helped. If you think I can add more things, please let me know, and thank you for watching.